Welcome to Transforming and Thriving with best friends Brooke and Stacie,
a podcast dedicated to women sharing their inspirational stories. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. We're excited for another episode. I'm Stacie, and today we're joined by our friend and assistant behind the curtains and microphones, Neelia Height. She will be introducing our guest for today.
Hi. I'm super excited because I asked Cecily Kelly, the founder of Twin Star Yoga in St. Clementi in our community, and I'm just so glad she's here with us today because she is this amazing human that people, I think not only myself, but the community and her members of her studio just kind of gravitate to. She has this, and you'll hear her voice, she has this magnetic personality. And I wish there's like a million of her to be cloned around the world because the world would be a better place. So I'm super excited. And I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. And so Cecily is the founder and owner of Twin Star Yoga in St. Clementi. She is forever an optimist, searching for connection and dreaming of creating a safe place for people to ground, heal, and grow. Twin Star offers a variety of classes, a huge variety to encourage, support a sustainable practice. They encourage honoring your movement journey that allows for challenging, but also for healing. So the classes include infrared vinyasa, infrared sculpt, bar fusion, restorative yoga, breath work, sound baths, Reiki, and many more. I actually signed up for one of the programs for this Saturday about like connecting to your shadow self. So without further ado, I really appreciate you being here, Cecily. How are you today?
Hello. I am so excited to be here. I'm very, very, very happy. Thank you, Neelia, for bringing me on and Stacie for having me. I just absolutely am so excited. So yay.
Yeah. So you had shared a little bit about your story, but what comes to mind when you think back to an experience that had a profound impact on you?
You know, I am one of those people that is kind of obsessed with life. Like I'm so obsessed with living and the ups and the downs of it. And so I really try to stick with the positive side, but now I'm really recognizing and really embracing the really hard side as well. And I think back to my biggest shift, which was actually changing jobs. And one thing for me is I grew up with change. We moved so many different times. Like when I was 4, I'd lived in 4 different countries. And we moved all the time because my dad was this amazing engineer. And so we were constantly moving and shifting, and I had to meet new people and make new friends. And my family and I got really close over that, and it was really amazing. So I always thought that I was really good with change. I'm like, oh, change is great. You can, develop so many different techniques, and you have to make new friends and learn. But once I moved out to California with my husband, one of the biggest things was I found this like adult job, and I was like, wow, I am so adult. This is so amazing. I didn't know I could adult. I thought I was just going to be a forever kid. And it was this really cool job. I was training the military, survival training, and it was called underwater egress training. And I was the only woman on the site. I think I was like 23 at the time, and I was making good money. And it was like, okay, this is it. I've figured this out. This is so cool. I love going to work every day. And I just thought that that was the pinnacle of everything. I'm like, woohoo. And then slowly over time, everything changes, and the staff changed and the boss changed. And we got this boss that just was one of those people that you meet that automatically like sucks your energy. And I was like, okay, this is fine. Just keep hustling. No worries. And they just, every time I would go into work, I remember I was so unhappy. And the pinnacle for me was when this new girl got hired on. And I love people and I love meeting people. And I didn't have any energy to connect with her. And I would go into work and I just was like so grumpy and so angry. And she would always try to ask me questions. And I had to turn to her one day and I was like, hey, I really like you, but I actually don't have the emotional energy to be your friend. And to say that out loud was the most horrific thing I think I've ever said. I was like, how can I not want to be friends with this person? It's nothing against them. I was just so drained. Everything in my power to get there and show up. And I was like, you know what? I have to leave. This is it. If I am just staying in this comfortable misery, that is not acceptable and I cannot allow this anymore. And so I just started speaking it into the universe. I was like, yeah, I'm going to leave. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to leave. And about a week later, I was saying it to some lovely person at this yoga studio that I was working at the time. And she was like, I have a job for you. And I was like, you do? Amazing. And she was like, it's a 7-week job. You could be a yoga teacher at this private school. And I was like, sure. So I quit my government job of, I think I'd been there for 8 years. And it was a full-time job. You got benefits, like all these things. And I loved it. I had to work with the Marines every day. I was pulling them out of the water. I was helping them learn how to breathe, off of breathing devices, scuba diving. That was me for 8 years. And I just felt cool doing it. And I loved it. And it was fun. And so I just pivoted. And I told my boss, and it was like the best day. So dramatically, I was like, I'm done. And he was like, okay. Because he just like didn't care about anything. And I started this job for 7 weeks. And I was just not sure what's going to happen now, and so I did it. And I wasn't right for that job. I mean, what do I know about teaching children anything? I'm still a child, as I said before, but it was fun and it was great. And then, of course, the 7 weeks ended. And I said, oops, like what do I do now? Okay. And I have been a yoga teacher for about, 9 or 10 years now. And I've been yoga teaching at multiple studios since then. And it's just one of the things that I'm uber passionate about. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, do you think I could own a studio? Like, that seems a bit far-fetched. And one of the studios that I was teaching at the time was kind of going through this shift. They weren't really having a lot of classes on the schedule. I went and I took a breathwork class and I was like, maybe this will be the answer. Maybe something will speak to me. Maybe someone will tap me on the shoulder and be like, this is your next step. Here's another job. Like, I don't know. Like, what's going to happen? So I went and I took this breathwork class. And in it, it sounds so trippy, but I was doing the breathing and I was kind of like having this out of body experience. And I saw what I thought was an alien because it had one eye, like in the center of its head. And the eye opened and looked at me. And I went out of that breathwork class and I was like, oh my gosh, that was my third eye. I think I found the space. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know it. And I rushed to the yoga studio and I was like, you know what? I really need to talk to you. She's like, yeah, it needs to be rebranded. Ugh, I just don't know what to do. And I was like, me, I'll rebrand it. Me. And she was like, yes. And that was it. So I opened a yoga studio. And from there, it was just amazing. I still to this day cannot believe it. One of my teachers on my team, they called me boss the other day. They're like, hey, boss. And I was like, who? Me? And I looked behind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm 1, anyone's boss, or 2, a business owner. But it's the happiest place I've ever been. And I miss it when I'm away from it. And yeah, it's just amazing. So anything can happen. You just really have to put one foot in front of the other and ultimately leap, I think. And that's that.
I love that. Just the leap of faith, literally, and having to trust in yourself. And also, I think that's so cool that you set boundaries with the girl that you were working with in your previous job too, because that's such a hard and uncomfortable thing to do. Seriously.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to do that, and just, self-awareness and respect for yourself too, and knowing what you need. I think that everything that you've just described can be so inspiring to so many people. I'm curious, through that whole transition, was there anything that really helped you to move through it and get to the other side and feel like you're in a place of transforming and thriving?
Yeah, I'm very lucky and very blessed because I have 2 supportive parents that are just absolutely my world, and a very, very, very amazing husband who is fantastic. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do one day. He's like, oh, okay. And then I turn around and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do now. And he's like, sure, honey, so he's never like, I questioning it or, but I think my dad always told me, if you're walking towards something, then that's all you need to know. And I just have always appreciated that. And I think I just recognize that everything is a journey. So when the tough times happen, you have to really remember and recognize that this is good because it's shifting you into this new opportunity. I mean, if we just remained in this stagnant place of supposed comfortability, then nothing's going to happen. I mean, we don't want to be in a stagnant, comfortable misery. We want to shift and we want to get out. And that's what's really ultimately going to help us learn, because I really truly believe that we're here for a purpose. And what's so amazing is every single person's purpose is different. I might be here on this planet to help 3 people just feel better. And someone else is here to like run a country, or someone else is here to just help with litter and creating new ways of more sustainability. You know, we all have different things, and maybe, you know, someone can affect 1 million people. But if we just stand true to ourselves and know that if we put one foot in front of the other, our journey is going to go the way that it's supposed to go, because ultimately the universe is on our side. Nothing bad that happens is because of us. It's for us, you know? And so I'm just trusting that what I'm here to do is gonna work out. And even when it's tough, it's good. You know, everything is temporary, and I'm just excited to see where it leads me next. Yeah, so everything will work out.
Well, I'm blown away with how much you've actually learned about yourself. It sounds like in such a short period of time, but also with the help and guidance of your family and your husband. Do you feel like you've grown as a result of this like whole experience?
Yeah. Like kind of ouch. Like it's growing pains for sure.
Mhm.
It's definitely not been easy, but I remember, and I will never forget this, and it seems a little bit silly, but it was amazing at the time. I was teaching it was like a bachelorette yoga class, and it was like one of my first ones. Because I've had the studio for about 2 years, and I think it was like right when the studio opened, and my friend knew someone that was getting married, and she was like, "Hey, you could host this yoga party." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, cool." And I was making sweatshirts at the time because I love fashion, and it's not necessarily that sweatshirts are fashion, but I just was like, I want to create something and like wear it and have it to be shared. And it was like positive affirmations. It was like the one that said like bloom from darkness and all these things. And so I went to this bachelorette party. I taught the class, and they were all so lovely. And I was so embarrassed to ask if anyone wanted to buy a sweatshirt. Like I had this box, you know, and I was like, oh, you know, like I just won't do it. I'm just too embarrassed. Who's going to want to buy a sweatshirt that I think is inspirational?
Me too.
And I kind of like mumbled. I was like, oh, okay. And someone was like, what's in the box? They're like pointing at it. They're like, open it up. And I was like, oh, I just like have some sweatshirts. Like if anyone, you know. And this girl stood up, and it was so funny because this girl had a broken leg, and she was like doing the yoga still. Like I don't even know who this girl. She like stands up from the crowd. She's like, she points at me. She's like, never apologize for your hustle.
Wow.
And I was like,
I love that.
oh, okay, I won't. You're right, I won't. And so I just was like, does anyone want sweatshirts? And they all bought one, and it was really fantastic and very sweet. But it was this recognition of why are we shy of standing in our truth? And I think I just want to meet people on their journey. And I'm terrified sometimes of my own journey, and it's still very exciting, but I just feel like we all could use support and love. And I just think we need to meet each other where we're at. And we have this self-imposed timeline. Oh, I'm 31. I need this in my bank account, and I need to be doing this, and my house needs to be this clean, like whatever. And we put ourselves down constantly, daily, waking up thinking, oh, I haven't done this to-do list yet. And the self-imposed timeline is the hardest part. Why can't we meet ourselves where we are and be proud and be excited for the next step instead of always finding that criticism, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like we're our own worst critics and our own worst enemies sometimes. And
Right.
yeah, having that reminder of don't get in your own way, I think is so important. I love your perspective and your energy. It's very just uplifting and inspiring. I'm curious to hear more about if you were to give advice or suggestions or like encouragement to someone who is maybe going through something similar to what you just went through in that whole transition, what would you say to them to maybe encourage or uplift them?
Wow. I mean, it's so funny because my biggest struggle is imposter syndrome, like we sort of had talked about. And so it's like, I'm like, who am I to give advice? But if this was my friend or someone that ran up to me and they said, what could I do? What could I do? You know, it's just, I would ask them to close their eyes, unless they're driving. If you're listening to this podcast and driving, no closing your eyes. But I would tell them to, close your eyes and picture what you want. And the best thing is, if you can imagine it, I believe that you have it in your future. Like, you already have it. If your brain can create the capacity of thinking about it and imagining it and dreaming it, then you've got it, girl or guy, you've got it. It's just absolutely amazing that you can create anything you want. I mean, we all started out as little blobby babies, and look where we are now. And we're going to grow up and we're going to change, and the journey's going to shift. And I just think that we're allowed to create the life that we want. And I remember when I was in high school and I was living in Texas at the time, and my whole thing was like, I have to move back to Australia. Like, if I don't move back to Australia, I've failed because I'm Australian. So, like, that's where the Australians live. I was like, I have to go back. I don't know. And I was dating my now husband, Ryan, and we met in high school. And I was like, babe, I got to go back. And he was like, what? And so I got into a university in Melbourne, Australia, and I moved away from him and my parents and my life. And I was like, cool. And I was living with my aunt at the time. And I was so unhappy. I think I was one of the most unhappiest I've been, except for that job. But I was there in a falsehood because I thought that's what I needed to do. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm here. And I remember I would hide in my room all the time. And I missed I missed Ryan. And I was like, this is just wrong. I don't even want to go to university. I'm just not a study brain. I just never had it in me. And I was doing business because the entrepreneurial thing was in me. But I sort of am a go-getter in the sense that I just kind of like grab things and run with it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this one's hot. Now I'm just going to drop this, or like this one's too heavy, or I grab something else. I don't know. It just was so wrong. And I remember my aunt is the loveliest woman ever, but she's not very huggy. And one day my cousin came home to visit, and he gave me a hug, and I just cried and cried and cried. It had been 3 months since I had been hugged.
Wow.
And it was so interesting because I didn't know it. It's not that I was denied hugs or, anything. It just wasn't a thing. And I was like, this just isn't right. I just have to go. And I talked to my aunt about it, and she was like, Cecily, your life is not a cookie cutter. You want to change the plan. Like, what are you doing here? Get on a plane. And I was like, but my parents have paid for this college and all these different things. Like, I have to do this. And I called my dad, and my dad's like, no, you don't. What step do you want to be on? Like, what do you want to do? If you're unhappy, then you're not on the right path. And I was like, oh, okay. So I called my boyfriend, Ryan, at the time, and I said, hey, I'm coming back. And he's like, I joined the Marine Corps. And I was like, ooh. So we're just crazy, we're just all doing our own thing. And so that's when I moved out to California, and that's sort of how it all happened. But I just would tell anyone that feels like they're struggling they're not alone in feeling lost, if that's how they feel. And it's okay to feel lost, because we don't need to take giant leaps. That's not what this is about. It's not a race. And connect to the purpose that they want to achieve. If they don't want kids, or if they don't want a big house or a big bank account, if they don't want, to visit every single country in the world, what do they want out of life? What's going to bring them a smile to their face when they wake up in the morning? And they can get it. They can get it. But how often are we living the reality that's in us for other people? And how often are we living it for ourselves? And I think that's the first thing that we have to pause and ground in.
Definitely. Those are very encouraging words. And I really appreciate that, because I'm sure there is someone out there that has to hear those specific words and what you have gone through. I would just love to share with our listeners how they can find you. You have an Instagram at Twin Star Yoga Studio, and you have a website, www.twinstaryoga.com. Your beautiful studio is located in San Clemente, California. And I know you shared with us briefly, but you have this amazing offer of 2 weeks unlimited special for only $55. So people can try all your various classes and find a membership that honors them, their schedule and goals. Is there any final thoughts or anything that you want to share in parting words?
Yeah, I just want everyone to know that they are absolutely so amazing, and to never let any situation hold you back. Don't think that you have to live for someone else, and it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to feel heavy sometimes, and you can find someone or a community that is there to support you. And it sounds like you beautiful ladies are creating this amazing supportive podcast community and encouraging. And if anyone ever needs anything, they can always reach out to me. I'm a good ear to listen, but I just really, really appreciate you guys for having me on. And yes, come down to Twin Star Yoga. We really want to meet you where you're at. We have a million different types of classes, and it's for beginners or intermediate or advanced or anything. And it's just a really safe space. It's my favorite place on earth. So I highly recommend it.
Well, I want to come now.
Yes!
And I live locally, so I will come with Neelia. Well, I really appreciate you. I mean, sometimes we all need that reminder of it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to make a change, and really asking yourself, what is it really that I want? And am I living my purpose? I think those are just such important reminders for all of us, no matter what you're going through, if you're considering making a change. And what really stood out to me is when you were talking about comfortable misery. I've never heard that term used, and I think it's so relevant to so many people in various situations. And just a good reminder, if you're feeling that, just do a check-in with yourself, and don't limit yourself. You can do anything. And I love your suggestion about visualizing and trying to manifest whatever you want and not limiting yourself. I just think those are all such important reminders for all of us to hear again and again and again.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
play this on repeat. I will repeat this as well. I'll listen to it when I need that reminder. Sometimes you just need to hear it from someone outside of yourself, right?
Right. It's all things that we've heard, I think, time and time again, but we get so caught up in the day to day. And I wonder if someone wrote down a list of what they did that day, and they can highlight which ones made them happy. And it's like, if you didn't highlight anything, you got to make a shift. It's like nothing's important to make you not have a highlighted sheet of paper.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am grateful that we were able to have you here today, and that you made the time to be on this podcast and share your story. I think it is definitely inspiring, and just your perspective on everything is also very inspiring and just positive. I think you have an amazing outlook, and I'm very impressed with just your self-awareness and your courage to make those changes and know what you want and what you deserve. And I think that will inspire a lot of people who are listening as well. So thank you for being here with us today. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, I will definitely come down to your studio.
Yay!
I'm definitely coming back.
Thank you, ladies.
So yeah, it was a pleasure having you today. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
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 To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Transforming and Thriving. We'll be back every other Monday with more inspiring stories. Please follow us on your favorite podcast app and follow us on Instagram so you can be a part of this community and stay up to date with each episode. Feel free to leave a review so that we can get your valuable feedback and other people can find these powerful stories. We're all in this crazy life together, so let's move through it together. See you there.